Russia is more than just dancing bears, vodka, and oligarchs. It has those things in spades, but at 6.6 million square miles with a population of 144 million, you know there has to be a few more things going on. It's a very misunderstood country with, admittedly, a lot of awful things going on, but it also has more than its fair share of the unusual as well. Here are some of the most obscure facts about Russia that few people realize. Number 10. Russia has a ton of dangerous elevators. Moscow is one of the largest cities in the world with a population of just shy of 12 million people. To serve the elevating needs of those people, the city has about 120,000 elevators. The country as a whole has over 450,000 of them. Now, odds are you've never taken an elevator head count before to determine if that number is incredibly high or incredibly low, but the answer is really, really high. That's more than double the number of elevators you'll find in New York City. So far so good, but also not really. The elevators in Russia are unreliable and old. Upwards of 200,000 people per year get stuck in elevators in Moscow because a solid 20% of them have exceeded their recommended lifespan. In 2017, it was estimated at least 27,000 elevators were in need of repairs. This is compared to Chicago, which reports a mere 100 people per year stuck in elevators. Next time you're in Russia, well, maybe consider taking the stairs. Number 9. Russia has a record number of millionaires. We hear a lot in the media about Russian oligarchs, so much so that the word kind of loses its meaning. An oligarch is basically just a very wealthy person whose wealth has afforded them political influence. The reason that the term gets lobbed towards Russian business people so often is because Russia has an absolutely massive number of millionaires. In 2018, Russia had 189,500 millionaires, a number that rose by more than 7,000 in a single year, making it a millionaire growth record. There are also 106 billionaires in Russia, and Moscow has the third highest number of billionaires in all of the cities in the world. Number 8. Beer wasn't considered alcohol until 2011. Russians have a reputation for drinking, but it should be noted that it's also an outdated reputation. In recent years, Russian drinking has been curbed considerably, and they consume far less than they did 10 or 20 years ago on average. That said, they still enjoy their alcohol, as witnessed by what they even consider alcohol. Beer, for instance, wasn't officially alcohol in the country until a presidential decree made it so in 2011. Prior to that, they considered it a soft drink on par with Pepsi and Mr. Pibb. Public health officials helped get the change put in place after beer drinking had gotten so out of hand that people were selling it on street corners from hot dog carts, and you could see teenagers roaming around the streets and riding the bus with bottles in hand. The country was given 2 entire years to adjust to the new rules regarding where and how beer was sold. In 2013, beer was only allowed to be sold by licensed vendors and not between 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. It also bans the sale at places like gas stations and kiosks. Prior to this move, Russians had been consuming upwards of 5 gallons of pure alcohol per year, and about 1 in every 5 Russian deaths was linked in some way to alcohol consumption. Number 7. Women in Russia outnumber men. There's long been a stereotype of the mail-order Russian bride, and it's not all based in perverse fantasy and misinformation. Fact is, there are too many women compared to men in the country by a fairly impressive margin. There are 1,159 women for every 1,000 men in Russia. The ratio is slightly higher in urban areas and slightly lower in rural areas, but across the board, there are more women. In total, it works out to around 10 million more women than men in the country. For an added twist on this, there are about 20 million bachelors in Russia as well, the result of which is a fairly low overall birth rate. So why is there such a disparity between men and women? Well, in part, you can head back to our previous point, where for many years, men particularly had an unusually high mortality rate related to alcohol. That's not the only reason, though. The Second World War destroyed the male population of Russia, and in 1950, there were less than 77 men for every 100 women. The numbers got better as the years passed, but they never really evened out. Number 6. Russia once taxed beards. It takes a certain kind of man to wear a beard, and not everyone can pull it off. Sometimes they grow in patchy and weird. Sometimes they make you look like a Sasquatch. And once upon a time in Russia, they were a financial liability. In the late 1600s, Tsar Peter the Great had a real hate of beards. The thinking here was that beards were a little backward and a little old school, and Russia was trying to modernize and be like the West. That meant an end to beards, or if you wanted to keep it, you had to pay tax on it. And if you did pay to keep your beard, you got a nifty little coin to prove that your beard was legal. The beard tax stayed in place until 1722. Number 5. Carpets or wall decorations in Russia. Have you ever watched YouTube videos videos from Russia or just footage of regular people in their homes in the country and notice that there are a staggering number of Russians who have carpets on their walls. It's actually a fairly commonplace wall covering in many parts of the country, and there's good reason for it. As the Soviet Union really kicked into high gear and people migrated from rural areas to the cities, many buildings were erected to accommodate the new metropolitan populace. These buildings were not necessarily the highest quality, though. There were lots of cracks and drafts that ran down the walls, and these would keep you cold on a harsh Moscow night. And the walls were also thin enough that if your neighbor had the TV on, well, you're listening to it as well. Carpets became multi-purpose wall decoration that looked artsy, kept you warm, and buffered against noise. Number 4. The Hermitage Museum is full of cats. Russians have an appreciation for art that is hard to wrap your head around. To understand this, look no further than the Hermitage Museum and its more than 3 million exhibits. According to those who have crunched the numbers, if you took 1 minute to appreciate each item for 8 hours a day, you could finish your museum tour in a brisk 15 years. You'd also have to walk about 6 miles through 350 exhibit rooms in 6 different buildings. There's a lot of museum here, and there are also a lot of cats. Before the museum was a museum, it was a place for the Russian Tsars. In 1745, Elizabeth of Russia ordered that cats be placed on guard duty to patrol for mice. Though the cats were killed off during the Second World War, more were brought in after, and now there are over 70 cats that call the museum home. They even have their own press secretary, the kitchen to make them meals, and a small cat hospital. Number 3. Russia is home to the world's largest and deepest lake. Russia is one waterlogged country by any estimation. Though Canada takes the cake for most lakes, Russia is home to the largest and deepest lake on Earth. Lake Baikal in Siberia is home to upwards of 1,800 endemic species, including a species of freshwater seal and 20% of the world's entire supply of fresh water. How much water is that? Well, 5,521 cubic miles of water, equal to all 5 North American Great Lakes combined. The maximum depth of the lake is 5,324 feet. Lake Baikal attracts a lot of tourists to the area, in part because all that water is stunningly clear. When the fresh snowmelt is filling the lake, you can see 130 feet straight down. The fact that it's also the oldest lake in the world is probably drawing some people to its shores as well. Best guess is that the lake formed somewhere between 20 and 25 million years ago. Along with the Nerpa seals that are endemic to the lake, the Baikal oilfish, the omelfish, and the massive Baikal sturgeon are also found in this lake. Number 2. There are wolf superpacks in Russia. The average wolf pack in most parts of the world has 6 wolves in it, like a furry little Brady Bunch kids stable. They can grow larger, of course, and some massive wolf packs have been recorded having 37 wolves, like the Druids wolf pack of Yellowstone Park. That gives you some perspective on how absolutely out of the ordinary it was when in 2011 the Russian town of Verkhoyansk had to deal with a superpack of 400 wolves. The wolves had reportedly taken down 30 horses in just 4 days. The town only has 1,300 residents and is so remote that Stalin used to send people to go there as a punishment. But with 400 wolves on the loose, the government was offering cash rewards for wolf packs, and helicopter runs took place to shoot the wolves. Experts claimed that the situation seemed dubious at best, but town officials were adamant that this was a real issue. The lack of natural prey and the utter remoteness of the region could have greatly contributed to the merging of many smaller packs into one super pack. So is it possible that the number of wolves was exaggerated? Well, absolutely, but it was believable enough that the Guinness Book of World Records took note of it. Number 1. Russians divorce more than they marry. Marriage and Russia do not go hand in hand. The ratio of marriage to divorce in Russia in 2016 was 1 to 1.6. That means that for every 5 couples that get married in Russia, 8 other couples get divorced. Every second marriage in Russia ends in divorce, making them world leaders in unsuccessful second marriages. The reason for the high rate of divorce is that you could do it with almost no effect whatsoever. In Russia, laws dealing with divorce are extremely loose. For instance, for just a few $100s, you can find a lawyer on the internet who will end your marriage without your spouse even knowing it happened. You don't even need to leave the house to do it either. Consent of your spouse isn't necessary, the lawyer never needs to meet you, and you could do it on the phone while having dinner with your spouse, and you'd be single in time for dessert. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Do not forget to subscribe. Brand new videos every day of the week. And if you want more from me, why not check out another channel I do called Business Plays? It's a little bit more laid back than this. It's all about business, but sort of not really. I'm linking to it below. Thank you for watching.